thank you for each new opportunity that you give. We thank you for reaching into our innermost souls to love us back to you. Your forgiveness, O God, sets us free, and we ask that you help us to walk into the freedom of each new beginning. Amen. Today's devotion is Forgiven for New Beginning. Our verse for meditation is John chapter 8, verse 10. When Jesus raised himself up and saw no one but the woman, he said to her, "Woman, where are your accusers, and who is it that has condemned you?" And she said, "No one, Lord." So Jesus said to her, "Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." Pastor Isaac Douanier is the current president of the East Central Rwandan Conference. But this is a place of deep sadness, but yet a place of profound opportunity for forgiveness. On April 6, 1994, Rwanda, a country where the Tutsi and Hutu tribes lived, worked, intermarried, played, and worshipped together, changed forever. First, the country's president was killed when his plane was allegedly shot down. Then, the genocide began. The Encyclopedia Britannica notes that this evil was, open quote, conceived by extremist elements of the majority Hutu population, spurred on by propaganda from various media outlets. Pastor Isaac recalled getting a message on April 7th that his 14-year-old son, who was in the hospital, had been murdered, and that his wife and entire family had fled to the church compound for help. They should have been a safe place. But in a 2016 article published in the Adventist Mission magazine, he recalls how on Sabbath, April 16th, a fellow colleague, a senior pastor, delivered the group of frightened people to the machete-wielding murderers. His loss was immense. His wife, 9 children, father, his mother, 3 sisters, a brother, and a brother-in-law, all killed. Pastor Isaac had to make a choice to forgive so that God could lead him into a new beginning. So 5 years later, when he was invited to go back to Rwanda and the same place where his family was murdered to serve as a president, he prayed hard but purposed in his heart that he would forgive. So on the first Sabbath, he embraced everyone when he declared that my friend is the one who loves God and who loves God's work. Let us work together in that spirit, he said. A new beginning through forgiveness. She's often referred to as the woman caught in adultery. According to the traditional Jewish culture, she was to be stoned to death. Her accusers thus grabbed this helpless woman and violently dragged her to the temple where Jesus was busy teaching at the morning service. Jesus knew that this woman was just a pawn in their game to try and ensnare him in a socio-political conflict. If he said the woman was to be stoned, he would be in trouble with the Romans for attempting to usurp their political position. And if he said no, then the Jews would accuse him of disregarding the laws and the commands of Moses. But Jesus was not concerned about himself. He was concerned about all 3 groups of people in that moment. John 3:17 tells us that God sent his Son into the world not to condemn the world, but that through him the world might be saved. So Jesus was focusing on all 3 groups, There were the early morning worshippers waiting to hear of God's kingdom. Then on the ground before him was this helpless woman lying in the dust. And then around him were the accusers, missing the point of righteousness. And Jesus' heart broke for all three groups. John 8 verse 6 says, Jesus stooped down and wrote on the ground with his fingers as though he did not hear. No one knows for sure what he wrote, but let us recognize three core principles here. First, Jesus is not about humiliation. Only those close to the woman and himself could see what he was actually doing in the dirt, because it was meant to change their hearts, not humiliate them. Second, Jesus meets us where we are. He stood up to speak to the accusers, and then he stooped to minister to the woman. Third, he offers everyone the same thing, freedom from sin, when he announced to everyone, whoever is without sin, cast the first stone. And then he stooped again to give them space to make their own decision. Today's verse reminds us that Jesus does not condemn, but he empowers us to overcome sin through his forgiveness, a forgiveness that creates new beginning. We must believe this. Jesus never condemns anyone who comes to him or is even dragged to him. And if you are standing like the Pharisees and the publicans were, he will stand up to you. And if you are on the ground like the woman, he will stoop to you. If you are in the backdrop like those in the morning devotion, then Jesus speaks to you. Man will fail you. Pastor Isaac learned that not even the title of pastor insulates humans against evil. But he also learned of a Jesus who loves everyone, who desires to forgive everyone. Forgiveness frees the heart of the forgiver and the forgiven. With each act of forgiveness, we have a chance for a new beginning. In John 10 verse 10, Jesus reminds us that the thief comes to steal and to destroy, but I have come that they may have life and have it more abundantly. And we say, Amen and amen.